Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to all of us. The Honorable Bapak Pahala Mansuri, Vice Minister of State-Owned Enterprises, and also our distinguished speakers on this afternoon session, Mr. Farukh Raza, Group CEO from Islamic Finance Advisory and Assurance Services, United Kingdom, Bapak M. Arsyad Rashid PM, Chairman from Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Jom Degans, Senior Partner from McKinsey Dubai, Ibu Frederica Widyasari, President Director from PT BRI Dana Reksa Sekuritas, and Bapak Anggoro Eko Cahyo, President Director from BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. And of course, our warmest welcome to our moderator today, Bapak M. Gunawan Yasni, SAAKMM, the Treasury of the National Sharia Board from Indonesia Council of Ulama. And of course, our warmest welcome to all participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the afternoon session of International Conference, The Future of Islamic Capital Market, Opportunities, Challenges, and Way Forward. This conference is aimed to enhance the understanding of Islamic capital market and its essential roles to support the private sectors and national economic development. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to begin this session, I would like to invite Vice Minister of State-Owned Enterprises to deliver his keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bapak Pahala Mansuri. Good afternoon, Pak Pahala.
Selamat siang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Selamat siang, Pak Vencer Raharjo, yang kami hormati, Ketua Komite Nasional Ekonomi dan Keuangan Syariah yang sudah hadir. Kemudian tadi juga saya lihat ada Pak Taufik, Pak Gunawan sebagai moderator.
Okay, excuse me, Pak Pahala, your voice is missing. Hello? Can you hear my voice? Okay,
ya, kelihatannya tadi masih di-mute oleh panitia.
Oh, I'm sorry,
mohon
Pak
maaf.
Pahala. The time is yours, Pak.
Ya, saya lanjutkan ya, Mbak. Ya, baik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang kepada para pembicara dan juga para panitia yang sudah hadir dalam kesempatan siang hari ini. Tadi saya lihat ada Bapak Vencer Raharjo sebagai Ketua Komite Nasional Ekonomi dan Keuangan Syariah, Pak Gunawan Yasni selaku moderator, dan juga mungkin yang sudah hadir Pak Anggoro, Presiden Direktur dari BPJS Ketenagakerjaan, Ibu Frederica Widyasari, Presiden Direktur dari PT BRI Dana Reksa Sekuritas, Bapak Arsyad Rashid, Chairman dari Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Bapak Farukh Raza, Group CEO Islamic Finance Advisory and Assurance Services dari UK, serta Guillaume Degante, Senior Partner dari McKinsey & Co. Pertama-tama, marilah kita mengucapkan puji dan syukur kepada Allah SWT bahwa kita pada siang hari ini bisa berkumpul dalam keadaan insya Allah yang baik, sehat walafiat, tidak kurang satu apapun, untuk bisa sama-sama mengikuti acara International Conference The Future of Islamic Capital Markets, Opportunities, Challenges, and Way Forward. Meskipun mungkin kita hadir secara daring melalui sarana video conference. Selanjutnya, saya juga ingin menyampaikan salam dan juga permohonan maaf dari Bapak Menteri BUMN, Bapak Erick Thohir, yang sedianya menyampaikan keynote speech-nya pada acara siang hari ini. Dan saya juga ingin mengucapkan selamat kepada Pak Vencer, mewakili Komite Nasional Ekonomi dan Keuangan Syariah, yang telah secara aktif juga melakukan upaya-upaya untuk bisa meningkatkan awareness bagi para pelaku di pasar modal dan juga para stakeholders lainnya, baik itu yang terdiri dari pemerintah, regulator, dan juga para pemain industri lainnya untuk semakin memperkuat ekonomi dan juga sistem keuangan syariah di Indonesia. Kami percaya dengan penguatan ekonomi syariah di Indonesia, ini akan memberikan kontribusi yang semakin positif juga terhadap perkembangan ekonomi dan juga pertumbuhan ekonomi di Indonesia yang saat ini tentunya membutuhkan adanya dorongan untuk bisa kembali pulih dari pengaruh pandemi COVID-19. Bapak Ibu semua yang kami hormati, eksistensi atau keberadaan dari pasar modal Indonesia, khususnya pasar modal syariah, sebenarnya ditandai dengan diluncurkannya reksadana syariah yang pertama pada waktu itu di tahun 1997, namun mungkin baru dikenal oleh masyarakat yang luas pada tahun 2011, sehingga tahun tersebut disebut sebagai tahun kebangkitan pasar modal syariah di Indonesia. Pada tahun 2011 tersebut, BEI melakukan inovasi untuk bisa mengakselerasi pasar modal syariah Indonesia dengan meluncurkan sebuah indeks saham syariah Indonesia untuk bisa mendorong fatwa transaksi saham yang sesuai dengan prinsip-prinsip syariah dan juga menciptakan sistem perdagangan online syariah. Melihat data historis, pasar modal syariah di Indonesia mencatatkan pertumbuhan yang cukup menjanjikan, di mana dalam 10 tahun terakhir, di saat jumlah saham yang tercatat di Bursa Efek Indonesia secara rata-rata meningkat hingga 65%, jumlah saham syariah meningkat secara pesat, yaitu sebesar 84%, atau artinya lebih tinggi dari tingkat pertumbuhan jumlah saham secara umum. Sementara itu tingkat pertumbuhan saham non-syariah itu jauh lebih rendah, yaitu berada di kisaran 44%. Apabila kita melihat dan juga mengkaji hal ini lebih lanjut lagi dan lebih dalam lagi, dalam 10 tahun terakhir terjadi peningkatan yang cukup signifikan di sektor pasar kapital syariah, di mana rata-rata volume transaksi harian meningkat sebesar 13,8% setiap tahunnya, yaitu dari 2,7 miliar lembar di tahun 2011 menjadi 8,97 miliar lembar di tahun 2021 di bulan Maret yang lalu. Kemudian rata-rata nilai transaksi harian itu juga meningkat sebesar 14,6% per tahun. Rata-rata frekuensi transaksi harian bahkan itu meningkat mencapai 31% per tahunnya. Dan juga nilai kapitalisasi pasar meningkat sebesar 6,4%. Nah, pandemi COVID-19 yang terjadi di seluruh dunia pada awal tahun tentunya memiliki dampak terhadap sektor perekonomian dan juga keuangan secara umum. Dari sisi pasar modal syariah, pada tahun 2020 secara year on year, indeks ISI atau indeks saham syariah Indonesia itu menurun sebesar 5,46%, JII menurun 9,69%, dan pada tanggal 24 Maret 2020 merupakan penutupan yang terendah bagi indeks saham syariah. Pada tanggal tersebut tercatat ISI turun sebesar 38,24% dibandingkan dengan penutupan terakhir di tahun 2019, dan jika dibandingkan dengan titik terendahnya pada akhir tahun 2020, indeks ISI ditutup pada level 177,48% atau mengalami peningkatan sebesar 53%. Dan ini tentunya menunjukkan bahwa indeks saham syariah itu sudah mengalami recovery setelah masa pandemi COVID-19 yang lalu. Hal yang menggembirakan bahwa di tengah kondisi ketidakpastian akibat pandemi tersebut adalah peningkatan dari sisi jumlah investor pengguna SOTS atau sistem online trading syariah. Berdasarkan data yang kita himpun dari anggota bursa penyedia layanan, jumlah investor syariah bertambah 19 kali lipat dari 4.908 pada tahun 2015 menjadi 93.200 870 investor di tahun 2021. Hal ini tentunya menunjukkan adanya peningkatan antusiasme yang tinggi dari para investor di pasar modal syariah. Selain juga menunjukkan adanya tren yang seperti kita lihat di pasar secara umum, di mana terjadi pengembangan investor retail secara keseluruhan. Dan juga dengan sejalannya dengan pertumbuhan pasar kapital syariah, perkembangan pasar saham BUMN di bursa saham juga menunjukkan adanya peningkatan yang cukup baik, di mana pada tahun 2021 yang lalu, 2021 ini, jumlah BUMN yang tercatat di bursa sudah mencapai 34 BUMN. Dan tentunya saham-saham BUMN yang tercatat di Bursa Efek Indonesia merupakan penggerak yang cukup dominan di pasar saham Indonesia dan juga merupakan saham yang juga sangat liquid dicatatkan di pasar modal di Indonesia ini. Dan di tahun 2021 ini kita juga berencana untuk melakukan pencatatan sebagai tambahan 2 anak usaha BUMN, yaitu holding geothermal dan juga Mitratel, yang masing-masing bergerak di bidang energi baru dan terbarukan, serta di bidang teknologi telekomunikasi. Tentunya kita berharap bahwa pencatatan dari anak usaha BUMN di tahun ini dan juga di tahun-tahun mendatang akan semakin mendorong kegairahan di pasar modal Indonesia dan juga pasar modal syariah secara umum. Dan ini juga terlihat bahwa di tahun 2021 ini kita melakukan penggabungan anak usaha bank-bank himbara yang bergerak di bidang syariah, di mana penggabungan tersebut menjelma menjadi Bank Syariah Indonesia yang langsung juga tercatat di Bursa Efek di Indonesia dan langsung memiliki nilai kapitalisasi pasar yang cukup besar, yaitu sebesar 97 triliun rupiah dan menduduki peringkat 13 di antara keseluruhan perusahaan atau emiten yang tercatat di Bursa Efek Indonesia. Hal ini tentunya menunjukkan bahwa minat masyarakat dan antusiasme masyarakat untuk bisa memiliki investasi di bidang-bidang usaha syariah menunjukkan adanya antusiasme yang tinggi. Dan melihat kinerja industri pasar modal syariah yang baik selama 10 tahun terakhir dan bahkan di tahun 2021 ini, kita optimis bahwa pasar modal syariah akan terus berkembang lebih baik lagi ke depannya. Kedepannya kinerja yang sudah baik ini dan juga harapan bahwa kinerja kedepannya akan semakin baik lagi tentunya perlu didukung dengan berbagai kebijakan yang diyakini dapat turut mengakselerasi perkembangan pasar modal syariah kedepannya. Di antara beberapa kebijakan yang kita harapkan akan bisa mendorong pasar modal tersebut, pasar modal syariah tersebut, adalah pengembangan efek syariah melalui securities crowdfunding, di mana pada tahun 2020 OJK sudah menerbitkan POJK nomor 57.04/2020 tentang penawaran efek melalui urun dana berbasis teknologi informasi, atau yang biasa kita kenal sebagai securities crowdfunding. Dengan terbitnya POJK ini, terdapat potensi berkembangnya produk saham syariah dan sukuk yang diterbitkan melalui securities crowdfunding, selain diharapkan dapat memenuhi kebutuhan pendanaan bagi sektor UMKM, maupun juga para pengusaha yang bergerak di bidang startup, khususnya teknologi, TOJK ini juga dapat memperluas segmentasi pemodal, baik pemodal umum maupun pemodal yang memiliki preferensi untuk berinvestasi pada instrumen syariah. Yang kedua tentunya adalah potensi penerbitan sukuk, khususnya di sini adalah sukuk daerah yang dengan telah diterbitkannya Undang-Undang Nomor 11 Tahun 2020 tentang Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja yang disahkan oleh Presiden RI pada tanggal 2 November 2020, kita berharap bahwa ada kegairahan tentunya dengan pengendalian yang baik bagi pemerintah daerah untuk bisa menerbitkan obligasi ataupun sukuk yang bisa digunakan untuk meningkatkan pembiayaan pembangunan daerah tentunya setelah mendapat persetujuan dari Menteri Keuangan. Meski demikian, selain daripada dukungan dari kebijakan, kita juga melihat bahwa perkembangan pasar modal syariah dituntut untuk selalu melakukan inovasi dan juga sosialisasi untuk bisa meningkatkan literasi, serta selain daripada meningkatkan supply atau jumlah emiten ataupun jumlah securities yang bisa diterbitkan dengan basis syariah, kita juga berharap bahwa dari sisi permintaan atau dari sisi jenis investor yang bisa berinvestasi pada pasar modal syariah juga kita harap bisa terus meningkat ke depannya. Tentunya semua hal ini menjadi PR bagi kita semua. Yang pasti ketertarikan investor pasar modal Indonesia untuk berinvestasi pada saham syariah dan saham-saham BUMN kita harapkan terus meningkat, dan indeks IDX MES BUMN 17 yang diluncurkan pada 17 Ramadan 1442 Hijriah atau pada tanggal 29 April 2021 yang lalu, kami berharap akan bisa memberikan manfaat ke depannya dan dapat dijadikan panduan bagi para investor di pasar modal, khususnya para investor syariah. Kami juga berharap bahwa peluncuran indeks ini dapat menjadi salah satu indikator peran pemerintah dalam pengembangan ekonomi syariah. Kedua, bisa mengakomodasikan ketertarikan investor pasar modal Indonesia untuk berinvestasi pada saham syariah dan juga saham-saham BUMN. Dan terakhir, juga bisa menjadi referensi ataupun juga acuan dalam penciptaan produk investasi berbasis indeks syariah seperti reksadana indeks syariah dan ETF indeks syariah. Dalam jangka panjang, indeks ini kami harapkan dapat berkontribusi untuk pengembangan pasar modal syariah dan juga peningkatan literasi dan inklusi keuangan syariah, serta dapat mendorong akselerasi perkembangan ekonomi dan keuangan syariah di Indonesia. Akhir kata, semoga apa yang kita bahas, apa yang kita diskusikan dalam konferensi ini dapat bermanfaat bagi seluruh peserta dan masyarakat Indonesia pada umumnya di kemudian hari, dan kami juga sangat berharap bahwa bisa diberikan banyak masukan kepada kami di BUMN untuk bisa memberikan kontribusi dalam hal mendorong peningkatan pasar modal syariah di Indonesia. Demikian yang dapat kami sampaikan. Sekali lagi selamat bagi para panitia, yaitu Komite Nasional Ekonomi dan Keuangan Syariah. Semoga-moga forum hari ini betul-betul bisa bermanfaat dan bisa mendorong pasar modal syariah di Indonesia ke depannya. Demikian. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much Bapak Pahala Mansuri for the keynote speech. We do believe that Indonesia capital market, especially the Islamic capital market sector, still have potential and will grow bigger in the future. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the next agenda, I would like to take this opportunity to take a group photos of our distinguished speakers on this afternoon sessions of the conference. And therefore, I would like to invite the Honorable Bapak Pahala Mansuri and also our invited speaker on this afternoon session to join us in this group photo. The first is Mr. Faruq Raza, and then Bapak Arsyad Rashid, and then Mr. Jom Degans from McKinsey Company, and Ibu Frederica Widyasari, and our last speaker, Bapak Anggoro Eko Cahyo from BPJS Ketenagakerjaan, and also our moderator for this afternoon session, Bapak Gunawan Yasni. I would like to invite you to join us in these group photos. Okay, everyone ready? We're gonna count to 3 and take the photo. Please draw a great smile. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Once more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much for your attendance. And we're gonna move on to the next agenda. We will start the discussion right away. And on this afternoon session, we will have 5 distinguished speakers who will give more interesting insight on Islamic capital market improvement in Indonesia. Without further ado, let's invite our remarkable moderator to lead this session. He is the Treasury of the National Sharia Board from Indonesia Council of Ulama. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bapak M. Gunawan Yasni. Good afternoon, Pak Gunawan Yasni. How are you feeling today?
I'm good, Alhamdulillah, Mbak Ambar. How are you?
I'm good, Alhamdulillah. Pak Gunawan, if you could give a little hint to our participants, what is this afternoon session is gonna talk about?
Well, of course, we are going to talk about their views, and their views will be used to be able to make Indonesia as the center for Sharia economics and finance, including the halal industry, inshallah, before the year 2024, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay, it's a very interesting topic we have this afternoon. So without further ado, let's just start the discussion right away. Pak Gunawan, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Mbak Ambar. I would like to extend my special greetings to His Excellency Vice President Republic of Indonesia and Vice Chairman of KNEKS, Professor Dr. K. Haji Ma'ruf Amin, and Honorable Minister of Finance Republic of Indonesia and Secretary of KNEKS, Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati, and of course, Honorable Executive Director of Executive Management of KNEKS, my fellow alumni of Faculty of Economics, University of Indonesia, Bapak Venture Raharjo. And last but not least, and of course, special greetings to my fellow alumni of Faculty of Economics, University of Indonesia, Bapak Pahala Nugraha Mansuri, Vice Minister of State-Owned Enterprises, who just gave the keynote speech, of course. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, la hawla wa la quwata illa billah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Without further ado, I would like to introduce 5 distinguished panelists. So we have honorable distinguished panelists from abroad and of course from Indonesia, who will share their views on discussion about the future of Islamic capital market in Indonesia, opportunities, challenges, and way forward. And of course, this is very important because, as I said before, this will make us to be able to make Indonesia as the center of the Sharia economics and finance, including the halal industry, in the future, not too far future, of course, in the near future, let's say 2024. And capital market is one of the most important thing in the Sharia economic system in Indonesia. So we have 5 panelists and we have so little time, of course. We have only like 1 hour to wrap up this discussion. So I will just introduce all of them to you all participants of the webinar. First, we will have Mr. Farooq Raza, the Group CEO, Islamic Finance Advisory and Assurance Services. He has many years of experience. He has been enjoying the diverse of Islamic finance in many diverse jurisdictions of more than 40 countries, and of course, across 4 continents of the world. And then next, we will have Mr. Arshad Rashid, the Chairman of Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, who is also President Director of PT Indika Energy Tbk, who was once awardee of Global Young Leader World Economic Forum in 2011. Well, 2011, he must be still very young at that time. Among many awards, he has as awardee, of course. And then we have Jean Degan, senior partner from McKinsey & Company. No doubt that McKinsey & Company has influenced many corporations, even countries, for the sake of industries and the world. And then we have my fellow Mujahidah in Sharia economics and finance, of course, Mrs. Friderica Widasari Dewi as President Director, BRI Dana Reksa Sekuritas. She has a PhD from Gajah Mada University, MBA from California State University, Fresno, United States of America. And of course, we've been side by side being builders with National Sharia Board, Indonesian Council of Ulemas, in establishing what so-called Indonesia Sharia Capital Market, when she was one of the Indonesia Stock Exchange directors and its subsidiary. And last but not least, we will have Mr. Anggoro Eko Cahyo, who was just appointed recently this year as President Director BPJS Ketenaga Kerjaan, and he has more than 27 years as banker, financier, IT builder, connected to the financial industry. So I would like to say and extend my greetings to all of the panelists. Assalamualaikum to you all distinguished panelists. And we will soon begin the discussion, of course, one by one. So I will give time and place for around 10 minutes for each panelist to share their views orally or with slideshow, of course, to make it more interesting. And I will give notification by saying, please wrap up the explanation to each panelist 2 minutes before the 10 minutes is up. So first, time and place, I would like to give Mr. Farooq Raza, the Group CEO, Islamic Finance Advisory and Assurance Services, IFAS. He is going to talk about the development of Islamic capital market in the United Kingdom and the way forward. And he's going to give the statement, the explanation, his views orally. So, Mr. Farooq Raza, the time and place is yours.
Terima kasih, Pak Gunawan. Assalamualaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's always a pleasure for me to be in an event with Indonesia. First of all, I would like to thank KNKOS and all the stakeholders who have organized and are facilitating and participating in this important conference today. I would also like to apologize for probably my a bit informal appearance. But I'm currently actually on holiday in the historic Spanish city of Granada. But when I received the invitation for this conference about 10 days ago, I could not refuse because of my very personal commitment and interest in Indonesia, in Indonesian Islamic finance and economy, and also with my due to my good and friendly relationship with Avence. So I accepted, and it's a pleasure for me here to be here with you today. So I'm not going to present any slides because obviously as I was on holiday, I didn't have time to prepare for slides, but inshallah I'll try to keep it simple and straightforward verbally. So I was asked to shed some light on the developments on Islamic finance, Islamic capital markets in the United Kingdom. So first of all, let me take you back of decades ago when Islamic finance, actually more than 2 decades ago when Islamic finance started in the UK. Started with Islamic banking, and then it's eventually grew into other sectors as well, including the Islamic capital market. So as we speak now in 2021, United Kingdom by far is the largest Islamic finance market outside the Islamic world, if you want, or in the West. And with the 6 Islamic banks that are operating in the country as standalone, fully fledged Islamic banks. There are multiple Islamic windows of conventional banks, including many British high street banks as well that are offering Islamic financial products to their customers. individuals and SMEs, etc. as well, and corporates also. And there is a new flurry, I would say, of Islamic neo or digital banks. There are like, I think, 3 or 4 Islamic digital banks that are in the making. And there are obviously other Islamic fintechs, etc., also that are coming up and are becoming very successful as well. Now, this is the domestic market scene in the United Kingdom, but on the international market scene, I think we all know that London is the place to do Islamic finance business, like many other things in the world. And the British market players have actually been very, very instrumental in building up the industry elsewhere in the world, but also in London, where the highest number of sukuk have been actually listed and traded today. So London Stock Exchange is one of the the leading markets where the sukuk are listed, are traded, and there are many Islamic funds that are also domiciled in the UK or in other jurisdictions and listed in London as well. So it's a great place to be involved in Islamic finance, and it has a very strong potential to keep driving this agenda of making Islamic finance a mainstream business in within the UK domestic market and also within the international market. This is very interesting that not only the Muslim consumers in the United Kingdom are benefiting from Islamic financial products, but also an increasing number of non-Muslim consumers and non-Muslim businesses are also stepping in. So it's a great example of demonstrating that how Islamic finance can be inclusive, as it is in Indonesia, by the way, and how it can be beneficial and a real driver of economy, as we have seen in Indonesia as well. So United Kingdom is definitely another example of that. Now, what is happening in the capital markets is, as I said, that the sukuk issued from around the world are listed in London Stock Exchange. Of course, they're traded and so on and so forth. But the United Kingdom itself has actually issued 2 sovereign sukuk to date. The first one was issued about 6 years ago for a 5-year term. It matured in 2019, I believe. There was a second sukuk that was planned, but it was delayed by a year almost because of the Brexit challenges and also the pandemic that came untimely. But this sukuk was issued earlier this year, and it's for another 5-year term. Now, the sukuk, all these 2 sukuk that have been issued so far by UK sovereign have been very heavily oversubscribed, and this is due to the demand that the market players from the UK for the sterling denomination sukuk have. So as you can imagine, with 6 Islamic banks already operating, with a number of other market players, including a couple of takaful operations, the Islamic capital markets players, etc., it's very, very critical for them to have access to high quality liquid assets in order to comply with certain regulatory requirements and liquidity requirements, and also having opportunity to invest in Sharia compliant avenues, in avoiding any forex risk as well, because obviously there is plenty of supply, but it's in US dollar, and of course the sterling market is not really adequate for that. So sterling denomination is very highly subscribed. Now, some people asked me and other people from the UK as well that why UK sovereign is issuing sukuk in sterling, because obviously this is a very, very small amount, if you want, like 200 million pound sterling, which obviously is not of any key interest for for the government from a commercial point of view, if you want. However, because the UK government has been very highly committed to Islamic finance and to make it really home in the UK and in London, there is a real commitment actually to make sure that all the ingredients that are required to make it happen and to make it stronger within the local market, they have issued these sukuk for strategic reasons, and which is actually giving access to Sharia compliant investment, and high quality liquid assets, to comply, let these institutions, comply with the regulatory requirements without, having any issues with liquidity and also, with their returns. So this is the strategic reason, and of course there is more demand, and we are hoping and we, expect the sovereign to increase their issuance and, maybe, having some more supply from, the corporate side as well. But so far, Islamic finance, Islamic capital markets are doing well in the UK, and it's actually a very good example. From a non-Muslim country that can be also very beneficial for other countries in the world, Muslim and non-Muslim alike. So this was, in a nutshell, a very brief introduction, on what is happening in the Islamic capital market space in the United Kingdom. But let me also take the opportunity, to say a few words about Indonesia as well, and why Indonesia. There is, a strong reason for that. I also happen to, have the privilege and the honor of leading the Islamic Finance Master Plan that was done, about 5-6 years ago. And it was, implemented by the government of Indonesia, and it makes us feel extremely satisfied, proud, happy, to see that Islamic finance or Sharia finance has grown significantly since then, since the implementation of this master plan, since the inception of KNLKS, and all the other measures that were taken and implemented correctly by the stakeholders in Indonesia. And we have seen, the market share grow from 5% to 10%, so it has literally doubled in 5 years. And we are very hopeful, inshallah, that this will continue. And as, different measures recommended in the master plan are being implemented, inshallah, it will become stronger by the day. Now, in terms of Islamic capital markets in Indonesia, I believe that there is a great example that has been set out already by the Ministry of Finance in Indonesia. And by having a very clearly defined plan and, a sukuk issuance plan and a multiple, program, multiple programs of sukuk within that plan. And the way, it is being conducted through a unified structure within the Ministry of Finance. There is a directorate, for Sharia finance. So that directorate is, managing everything. I had, a detailed conversation with Ibu Iwanti, a few weeks ago, actually, when, I requested her, some insight into how they are doing this, because it's very impressive that, everything is being managed in a central, operation. And, there are different types of sukuk that are related to the projects, to, the retail sukuk, the green sukuk, and so on and so forth. So all this is very, very, I think, good. It's excellent. And it's, a very good example that has been set out to the degree that we have actually now started, as IFAS, as being a consultant and working in many different countries. You quoted 40 countries. As I'm speaking, actually we have reached into 50 countries now, making these strategic plans for many governments and giving them, helping them build the infrastructure, the market infrastructure, for Islamic finance. And I'm very proud to say that there is a major OIC country, one of the leading Islamic countries with, a very, developing economy, emerging economy. We have actually recommended the Indonesian model of capital market and Indonesian model of, sovereign sukuk issuance and management program. We have actually recommended this, to another country. So, I want to congratulate the Indonesian stakeholders and KNKS and, the Ministry of Finance, of course, for setting up this example for the others. And this was actually our promise to the Indonesian stakeholders in 6-7 years ago when we worked for the master plan, that inshallah, bihamdillah, we are very hopeful that Indonesia will become the example and it will become a model that will be inspiring for other countries as well. So it's not just a hollow praise, but it's a very genuine observation, and it's a very genuine appreciation as well. So bravo to all of you, and I think I'll rest my case here now, so that Pak Gunawan, you don't have to remind me. But inshallah, I'm here to participate further in the discussion and answer any questions that the audience may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farouk Raza. Wow, a very good explanation about the UK. Actually, I have my own question that I would like to ask in the question and answer session next after our last panelist. I was about curious on the number of Sharia finance doers in UK and Sharia financial instruments in UK, which I got from your explanations are not that big. But why UK has been the center and hub of Islamic capital market? So don't answer it now, but we will have that question and answer later after the last panelist has given the explanation. So next, we will have Mr. Arsyad Rashid, Chairman of Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He will share his views on the contribution of Islamic capital market for the development of private sectors in Indonesia. To Pak Arsyad Rashid, the time and place is yours.
Thank you, Pak Gunawan, and a very good afternoon to everyone, and Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, my gratitude to the National Islamic Economic and Finance Committee, particularly Pak Venture Harjo, who has invited me to be part of these programs today. And also greetings to, of course, first of all, to our Vice Minister of State-Owned Enterprise, my good friend, Yang Terhormat Bapak Pahala. And also I would like to have greetings to my fellow speakers today, and of course all participants who are actually following this seminar today. My first slide, please. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to take you actually to, this is the milestone of what the Islamic capital market in Indonesia. I think Pak Pahala actually stated some of the historical situation, but let me first just take you to this journey of the Islamic capital market in Indonesia throughout from the late 1990s to all the way today. And what happened is, which there is a various of a regulation released by the SEC or OJK of Indonesia, and with, of course, the birth of the first Indonesia Surat Berharga Syariah Negara in 2008. And this is becoming the first Indonesian bonds, which is based on Sharia. So what we look at here is that the development, although started in the 1990s, I think it's quite a slow process of development until today in the year of 2020. But we see there is this opportunity moving forward, as just now also mentioned by the professors, that there's a big opportunities in Indonesia, particularly on this on Sharia, and particularly also right now being as I'm also part of the work called the Sharia Economic Society or MEA. This is where, as a society, we like also to educate and more towards the Sharia economy in Indonesia. Going to the next slide, please. Main question is, what are the products today? This is some of the guidelines from MUI, which is the Indonesian Ulama Council, regarding the requirements for stocks to be classified as Sharia compliance, which IDX and OJK have issued the list of Sharia stock that can be used by investors guideline in JII and also ISSI. Here you see also that corporate and government have also issued the various contracts and purposes, which guidelines have also provided by MUI, which is the Indonesian Ulama Councils. And there are also Sharia mutual fund and other instruments that can be optioned for investors to invest, basically. Now, after what's products, then the question is how is it the development in Indonesia? Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. Here on the figure 1, it shows the movement of the price index for JHI in blue line, the ISSI in gray line, the JKSE or IJSE in orange line, and the Dow Jones Islamic market. Previous one, please. I'm still on the previous slide. Before this, please. Before that, please. Before. Yeah, I'm still here. Thank you. Yeah. Next one, please. Not this one. Hello. Sorry. Yes, this one. Presenting that there's a steep decline. It shows in the movement during the year 2000 to 2021. Presenting there is a steep decline during the early pandemic, which is March 2020. But then it rebounds back, although it is decreasing again, but the movement is very similar to ISI, JKSE, and JGI. So you can look at how the GIM is just to compare the level of the price index and its movement. In figure 2 shows the trend of the corporate sukuk issuance, which has a steady increase from 2016 to 2021. And the current standing is 169 sukuk, basically, which the value at around 32 trillion IDR or rupiah. And in table shown shows the breakdown of the corporate sukuk outstanding per May 2021 based on sectors and akad being used. The highest come from the infrastructures such as Indosat, XL, Axiata, PLN, by using the Ijara contract. It shows that sukuk issuance can support for the financing of infrastructure activities in Indonesia through corporation and also using the Ijara or leasing contract, which should be asset-based. Next is still on the development of in Indonesia. Aside from the corporate sukuk, government also issues sukuk, known as the sovereign sukuk. There are several types of sukuk issued by government. For example, the project-based sukuk, the Surat Berharga Negara Syariah, the SPNS, the sukuk retail, the sukuk wakaf, and sukuk falas. And the figure shows that the volume of issuance is really dominated by this project-based sukuk, and followed by, of course, the retail and then SPN and, of course, SNI. To the next slide, please. And after looking at Indonesia, I think it's interesting to look at how it is in other countries. And in this figure shows the trend of the sukuk issuance and sukuk outstanding globally from 2004 to 2019. And then you're showing a decrease from 2012 to 2015, but rebounds again in 2015 to 2019. And in figure 5 shows the breakdown by country, showing the highest proportion come from Malaysia, followed by Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Turkey, Kuwait, UAE, and of course, other countries. Now, let's take a look in also to the next slide in other countries in regards to the show of the issuers of sukuk, which is quite interesting here, the type of sukuk issuance, how still dominantly by the government or sovereigns, which is 56%, and then 36% is corporate, and 8% from the multilateral organization. And look at figure 7, shows the breakdown by country. This is so interesting, the type of sukuk issuance by country, how Malaysia, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, and how Saudi Arabia dominated this sovereign sukuk, while Malaysia dominates the corporate and also the sukuk issuance. It's very interesting to look at how these various countries are on this. Next, please. Another slide here, actually, this shows the issuance by sectors here, right? But again, dominated by the government, 56%, and then financial, 34%. It can be increased for other sectors too. And in figure 9, it shows the issuance of the green sukuk, which attempt to finance the green projects, as mentioned just now by the professor. Malaysia is, of course, the first to issue this green sukuk back in 2017 for energy project. And also Indonesia, now UAE and Islamic IDB are issuing sukuk back in 2019. So sukuk has been very much, and also particularly sukuk will be very interesting because how the global initiative on green economy and aligning with, for example, with this sukuk of green sukuk. Now let's see the green sukuk in Indonesia. Next slide, please. This slide presents the details of the green sukuk development in Indonesia, starting in 2018. That's generating about $3.24 billion US. It also shows the use of the proceeds, such as for the financing of sustainable transport, waste and energy management, and strengthening resilience for the vulnerable areas, and of course other sectors, the renewable energy and of course energy efficiency. So as for the investors, if you look at there, it is really dominated by Asia, but unfortunately excluding Indonesia, and then Middle East and then Malaysia. And so Indonesia itself only accounts for 5%. And this is really an opportunity also moving forward. And let's take a look at what other countries are doing on this. The next slide, please. The figure 10 shows the trend of the Islamic funds globally, right? From 2008 to 2019, showing that there is an increase from 2016 onwards, a decrease from 2014 to 2016. But you look at figures 11 on Islamic funds breakdown by country, shows the breakdown of Islamic funds by, say, Saudi Arabia has the highest portion here, followed by Malaysia and then Iran and other countries, and Indonesia has the 2.9% of the proportion to the global values. Now, let me take to the question of what are the issues and challenges. Next slide, please. So particularly with the current situation on the pandemic situation, we are now in a new, what we call a new world, a new reality, a new normal. So the pandemic has actually affected this Sharia stock market. And there's a decrease in the price index and also decrease in economic growth. So basically, also there is a need to prepare for the market for this, maybe a different framework of measuring performances that we have to take a look on this. But again, one more is the literacy. I think literacy from society is a big challenge. How the ephemeralization of people, or for which people do not understand the product and its function. And so there is a need to increase the education and socialization for people regarding the Islamic capital market. Next, please.
Mr. Arshad,
Okay.
you have
Yes.
2 more minutes to wrap up your explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that. What is the future? We're talking about how the financing for sustainability project in the future. I think with the SDG agenda, I think we see there's a brighter future here, how we can work between Sharia and being the sustainable project. Of course, collaboration, fintech companies, accelerating of digitalization, I think is also a key thing in bringing in to a faster move of the Sharia financing or Sharia economy. With that, I just want to end to this, that Indonesia is part of this global movement on with Indonesia as the most populous Muslim country in the world. We are part of this global movement, and I think Indonesia has a big opportunity in building the Sharia economy, and particularly Sharia capital market. With that, I would like to end this, and thank you very much and I hope that that brief explanation at least bring us about the understanding of what the current capital market on Sharia all about in Indonesia and globally. With that, thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What a great explanation from Mr. Arshad. I must give you some hint that Indonesia is the biggest sovereign sukuk in the world. So, Mr. Arshad, you don't have to answer this, maybe in the next question and answer session. But my question would be like, what else should Indonesia do to become the center of Sharia economics and finance of the world? So you have been explaining how great is Indonesia, but what more we have to do. But hold on to that question. For those who are very keen, very much liking to ask our panelists, please use the Q&A button on your Zoom application, and put your question there to which panelists. So next, later after the fifth panelist done the explanation, we can have the question and answer session. So next, I would like to give the time and place to Jean Dagan, senior partner of McKinsey & Company, who is going to share his views on global sukuk issuance for corporate and private entities, opportunities and challenge. Mr. Jean, the time and place is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Pak Gunawan. Thank you to all of you. It's very good to be here today. Thank you to Ken Case and thank you, Pavenchi, for having us today on this very important topic. So let me share a few thoughts on the global sukuk private issuance market, and it's a story of a lot of recent successes. Still a relatively small market, and so I'll take a bit of a snapshot of where we are today, and then I'll talk a bit about going forward what we see as potential opportunities and potential risk in this market based on discussion we've had with investors, with issuers in the last year. So let me start with, and I think there are a few pages, so we can, if we have them, let's put them up. If we do not, it's okay. But the first thing I want to say that this is, of course, one of the most dynamic area of finance overall, right? First of all, if you look at returns. And Paguna, I don't know if we have, we sent a few pages yesterday. I don't know if we have them or if we do not. If we do not, I can project myself.
Yeah, you can share your slideshow perhaps, because I'm told by the committee that you would like to share your own slideshow.
Oh, I see. Okay, very good. Let me share. Yeah, great. So let me share a few pages. The first element that I would like to share is that there has been very strong performance and very strong growth of that market. Right. So if you look at return in blue here, you have conventional, and in white you have sukuk for global bond market. What you see that over a 3-year period, global sukuk has actually provided more return to investors, around 95 bips per year compared to conventional. And if you look on the right side in the year-to-date view, it is the same picture, right? So we have a very strong market. If you look at the drivers of this, right? First of all, there has been tremendous investor appetite. So if you look at the global or at the subscription, right? The last Aramco issued 8 billion in sukuk bond last year. It was oversubscribed 6 times, right? If you look at the typical, especially GCC private global sukuk issuance, they have typically been oversubscribed quite massively. So 6 to 8 times for many of them, on average probably 3 to 4 times, right? And there is a great story of innovation and broadening in the global sukuk market. So if you look at the broadening, if you look at where the investors come from, and the previous speaker alluded to it, a lot of innovation coming from and a lot of appetite coming from new market, right? It used to be a very narrow market. Now we see a lot of appetite for investment coming from the UK, coming from the US, coming from other European countries, including for global sukuk. So that's one big element. The second one is that we have seen a lot of innovation in the market, right? So in a lot of new countries that were completely out, for example, Taiwan, Qatar Islamic Bank issued 800 million of global sukuk in Taiwan, listed it on the Taipei Stock Exchange last year. In Egypt last year, for the first time, there was an issuance of global sukuk by a real estate investor. So there is a substantial amount of broadening, and there is also some innovation. Some people who are looking at more sell to the global to the retail market. Some people who are looking at using more technology, blockchain, etc. So it is a story of strong growth, strong return, strong innovation, and the last point I would say that it really held up. The market really held up in the last economic cycle. So you've had a few in that global privately issued sukuk market. You had a few credit events from airlines, especially so from Garuda. Also, Malaysian Airlines deferred 360 million of global sukuk last year. But these are really very specific sectors that were highly impacted. By and large, the market really held up in the context of COVID and continue to outperform the conventional bond market. So it has been a great story of growth, innovation, and resilience in this market. But however, the market is still very, very small, right? If you look at what really drive issuance in global sukuk, in sukuk in general, in global sukuk, it's still sovereign are still really the bulk of insurance, and that's where the liquidity is, that's where the volumes are. So the question is why is that? One first general remark, which is when we look at development of financial markets, and especially development of bond markets, it is a very common pattern, right? So if you look, for example, we went back and we looked at the Singapore corporate bond market, and it really took off very late. It really took off in 2006-07. That's when you start to see a real spike in corporate bond insurance. But for many years, actually, the liquidity, the price discovery, the yield curve was created by government issuance, and corporate issuance came when there was already a market infrastructure that was there that was strong, right? So at some level, there is a sense of history, and we think we are at a very interesting time when in many countries we start to see enough of a critical mass of sovereign sukuk issuance to drive corporate sukuk issuance as number two. The second thing that is happening is that it still is the secondary market is still pretty limited. So if you look at conventional bonds, even if the returns are a bit lower, liquidity on the secondary market is much higher, and you have a number of instruments such as the repo market, of course, in the conventional bond market, that enable, even without selling, that's enable to create liquidity for investors. That secondary market is one part. I mean, a lot of those, when we survey investors, a lot of those sukuk issuance are held to maturity. And so the secondary bonds or the secondary market for this type of issuance is still quite limited, and that is one area that is creating some additional risk for investors. That one second challenge that has to be overcome now. Now, of course, it is something that has been overcome in many markets. And at level, look at incentive for market makers, looking at structure of. I mean, there are a number of ways to deal with it, but that's one of the very big challenge, and one of the big. The third one is standardization. So it's a relatively fragmented market in terms of structure of instruments, in terms of size of insurance, in terms of even standardization of standards that are applied. So that harmonization of standards is one of the big challenge of that market. It creates some uncertainty for investors, and it fragments, especially the primary as well as the secondary market of these securities. Now, all of these, I think, have answers. If we look at the conventional bond market for corporate bonds, there are a number of answers to these that have been found, right? Around leveraging primary dealers more, providing more technical assistance to investors, creating some stronger standards. So as you get higher standardization of issuances, and you get more volume with specific instrument and maturity. So all these, I think, are very solvable. But that's one of the big homework for all of us in the coming years. But what is I think very important and very interesting is because a lot of the issues we talked about are micro issues. But when we look at the macro situation, we think actually there are incredible opportunities ahead. And the first one is that ESG trend. So, and this one, the previous speaker talked a bit about this, but I think one interesting question to ask is how does the ESG trend impact this, especially global sukuk issuance for private? Because if you look at over 10 years, global sukuk has increased by around 164%. Green bonds have increased by around 5,300%. So,
Mr. Jean, I must notify you that you need to wrap up the explanation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. So the very first point is you had an explosion of green bond issuance, and you had a strong increase in global sukuk. But at some level, and you have an intersection of the two, which is just as Garuda, the green, the specifically green sukuk. But one of the questions, and the World Bank has been doing some work on this, is given the nature of global sukuk, the fact that it is linked to real assets, actually at some level, one could argue that all of the market is actually very aligned with ESG, not just the green part of global sukuk. So that is an important interesting distinction. And as we think about developing the market, I think having the whole market benefiting from ESG trend is very important. The second big opportunity, retail market, Malaysia has started, but getting much deeper and broadening the base of investors from institutional to retail is, we think, a very big opportunity. And the third one is technology investment, technology innovation, and especially instant settlement, leveraging blockchain to create a much easier market infrastructure and leapfrog some of the market infrastructure on conventional bond. So we think ESG, broadening of investors, including retail, and technology, including blockchain, are three very big opportunities for global sukuk. Thank you very much, Pak Gunawan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jean Doran. A very good explanation, a very detailed explanation. But I'm curious, something you said about magnificent, about sukuk. In your accent, you say magnifique. You say magnifique. So Well, maybe in the question and answer later, you can answer what is so magnifique about Sukuk compared to conventional old conventional bond, I mean, worldwide. So you don't need to answer that now. We'll have the question and answer session later. So I would like to give the panel to the next panelist, my friend, Ibu Friderica Widyasari Dewi, the President Director of PTBRI Dana Reksa Sekuritas. She will give her view about the strategy and challenge for corporations to raise funds from the Islamic capital market. To Ibu Friderica, the time and place is yours.
Thank you very much, Mas Gunawan. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May I say hi to Pak Venture Harjo. Thank you, Pak Venture, for inviting me to this such prestigious seminar. Also to Pak Pahala Mansuri, Vice Minister of State-Owned Enterprise Ministry, and my good friend Gunawan Yasni, and all other speakers, Pak Anggoro, selamat siang, and also Pak Arsyad, and other speaker, Mr. Faru and Mr. Julan. Thank you very much. I hope I can share my view in a very short time, and let me share my slides. Okay. Already seen, right, Mas Gunawan?
Yes, I can see it clearly. Yes.
Okay. So the future of Islamic capital market, the strategy and challenge for corporate to raise funds from the Islamic capital market. Of course, if we talk about a market in Indonesia capital market, we have to talk about the supply and demand side. I would share with you some of the numbers and also my experience, Dana Reksa Sekuritas experience in helping companies to issue fund, to raise fund and issue sukuk in the Indonesia capital market. Here, I think most of you already seen this, but I just want to see where are we now in terms of a position from Global Islamic Economic Indicator. We are number 4, below Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. And then this is for halal value chains industry. Also, we can see here. And the good thing is Indonesia now racing in this kind of issues, yeah. For modernization, halal food, pharma and cosmetics, and other industry. But for financial, we are number 6, yeah, below Malaysia and those countries. I can say here that in the midst of implementing the national policy mix, Islamic economy perform in general perform better than the national economy. Is represented by priority sectors in development the halal value chain ecosystem, such as agriculture, halal food, Muslim fashion, friendly tourism, Muslim. Indonesia's share economic contraction in 2020 was only minus 1.72% compared to the national economy, which is 2.07% minus. I don't want to touch this because some of the speaker already mentioned this. The potential Indonesia potential, as we all know that Indonesia is the country with the biggest Muslim population in Indonesia. We have 229 million people out of 283 million people. And I think this is a good potency that Islamic economy, Islamic finance, Islamic products can grow very promising in Indonesia. We can see here that in the right side, that in 2020, Pasar Modal Syariah or Syariah Capital Market total asset consists of Syariah share, Syariah mutual funds, and sukuk were recorded at 4,597 trillion, or around 29% to our GDP. Meanwhile, if talking about Sharia shares itself, it contributes for 24% shares of the 22 GDP of Indonesia. We also can see in Indonesia that regulators support a lot for the development of Islamic capital market. As Pak Gunawan Yasti mentioned, that I was part of the development Indonesia capital market, especially in as Pak Pahala mentioned, the raise of Indonesia capital market actually known in 2011 when we had the fatwa number 80 from Ulama Council, thanks to Pak Gunawan also supporting IDX at the time. And also we launched what's so called Indonesia Sharia Stock Index, that consists of all stocks in Sharia stocks in the capital market. We can see here that Indonesia Stock Exchange actually already have a vision and mission. And number two, we can see here that they have initiative to develop new growth area, including the Islamic capital market. This is related to the IDX initiative in developing new products, including derivatives, ETF, and service in Sharia capital markets. What about from OJK? OJK also already have a blueprint in capital market. They have a vision that Sharia capital market industry, which a significant contribution to the national economic and financial ecosystem. And they divided into four, which is very, we can see here, it's, they divided to four. First is product development. This is very true because the development of Sharia capital market products based on the product development is very important in supporting development of the Indonesia Islamic capital market. Also for a socially responsible investment, I think other speaker already mentioned this as well. Increase the diversity of Sharia capital market products. The second one is strengthening and development of infrastructure and literacy and inclusion enhancement. This also, I think, very important part to develop Indonesia Islamic capital market, Sharia market. And then the number four is strengthening synergy with stakeholders. I think this is also very important. Regulators also support with, they already have some of the regulation that related to Sharia capital market to support the development of capital market. And also there are 24 fatwa from Ulama Council related to the Sharia capital market. As I said before, if we talk about the potential in Indonesia capital market, we should talk about the number of investors, the number of the size of the market itself. We can see here that actually with 5.5 million investors now, which is still very low actually compared to the number of Indonesia population. We can see here that it's heavily located in Java Island. So actually, what I want to say here, actually, there are still huge potential to grow outside Java. Even in Java itself, still some room to grow, especially for other islands like Sumatra, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and other islands. I also read in the chat box that somebody mentioned about millennials. Yeah, this is number of investor in Indonesia, 5.5 million, which 80% of it are millennials below 40 years old. So this is also something to if you a business person, then you have to tap this as a potential market that is very good for the growth of the business. This is we can see here that in Indonesia capital market the number is growing very significant, especially if we see the value, the increase in the value, daily transaction value. Previously maximum to 9 trillion a day, now it's already 13 trillion a day. This is also a contribution of the raise of retail investors in Indonesia capital market. due to the pandemic, if you remember last year in 2020, when the index was like 6,000 and then fell to 3,900 something, people were like shocked, and market were very impacted by this. But the blessing in disguise is then people, when they most of the people had a work from home, then they really look into the market, and the value of daily transaction grew up significantly.
Ibu Kiki, you have 2 more minutes to wrap up.
Okay, yeah. Okay, and also this is the risk of domestic investors that already surpassed the foreign investors. This is the impact of technology. I think this is Ashad already mentioned this. I'll make it quick. The number of Sharia stock in Indonesia capital market already 60%. From market cap point of view, already almost 50%. And we can see the number is actually show that the growth of Sharia capital market is already amazing, yeah, with this number. Okay, from this I can share with you the sukuk issuance in Indonesia. Because Dana Reksa Sekuritas, we are one of the best investment banking in securities company in Indonesia. Last year, we helped some company to issue sukuk. Yeah, we can see here that the industry vary from basic industry and chemical, finance, property, real estate, consumer goods, and other. And the biggest size was Pegadaian last year with 1.5 billion, 1.5 trillion rupiah. Challenge and issues, actually, I mean, I really want to talk more, but because of the time, yeah. But I think we can have a discussion later. Challenge and issue right now for the company is, of course, the pandemic situation. We all know that this is not easy, yeah. And the declining economic growth, as we see even more with the second wave of COVID in Indonesia. What about supply and demand? Why is not the sukuk issuance is not as much as we expect, yeah, to have? Whether it's about supply or demand, yeah, we can have discussion on that. Knowledge and literacy, I think this is very important for all of us, and continuous support from regulator and government, and infrastructure and technology. I think like Pak Anggoro from investor side, yeah, I think can play a very important role as well to support the development of sukuk. Yeah, how to support issuers. Yeah, so they know that there are investors who are willing to buy or to invest in the sukuk kind of instrument and others. So I think that end my presentation, Mas Iwan. So I will come for Q&A session. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very well said about Indonesian sukuk industry. But I would like to have some private question to Mbak Kiki. Even though Indonesia is still #1 in sovereign sukuk issuer, but corporate-wise, sukuk, it still needs some booster, just like the vaccine, I guess, yeah. So after it is there for years, what should we do? I mean, you have been doing a lot of assistance for the sukuk issuers, for the BUMN or the state-owned enterprises. But what more can we do for that? You don't need to answer it now. We will have the question and answer session later. So another last 10 minutes, I would like to give Bapak Anggoro Eko Cahyo, President Director of BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. He's going to share his views on fund placement in Islamic capital market products for social safety fund managers, potentials, preference, and challenges. To Pak Anggoro Eko Cahyo, time and place is yours, Pak.
Terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang terhormat Bapak Venture Harjo, Executive Director Komite Nasional Ekonomi dan Keuangan Syariah, all distinguished speakers, Mr. Farouk Raza, Pak Arsyad Rashid, Pak Guillaume, Ibu Kiki, moderator Pak Gunawan Yasni, all participants and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I am honored to be given the opportunity to share about Sharia economy from Jam Sostek view. So hopefully today's sharing can be useful for all of us. In Indonesia, there are two social security administrators, which are BPJS Kesehatan, which administer National Health Program, and BPJS Tenagakerjaan, which administer 4 programs: old age benefit, death benefit, work injury benefit, pension program, and soon unemployment benefit. Currently, our operation is run in conventional way, but the situation forces us to provide a Sharia services. Otherwise, we cannot run our operation in Aceh due to the implementation Qanun in Aceh. Therefore, we started Sharia services development in 2019, but it's still in the early stage. It's not mature yet. And let me share the progress of our investment and exposure to Sharia instruments. Next slide, please. Based on the law, one of our mission is to provide social security coverage to all workers. Therefore, we are required to make sure that these Sharia services are inclusive and acceptable universally by all workers, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. It doesn't mean that we change our program from conventional to Sharia. Our aim is to provide a new option for those workers who have preference to be served in Sharia way. Inclusive and universal are two principles that we lay as a foundation of these services. So why the Sharia services? Firstly, there are customer demand for Sharia services. Before we conducted a large market survey, we tried to get view from our own employee, since they are also part of Indonesian workers. And we can fine-tune our survey based on their feedback. The result was 86% stated that we need to have a Sharia services. That the survey from our employee. Furthermore, to convince ourselves and confirm the demand of Sharia services, we conduct a larger survey to external workers in 10 provinces with sample size around 1,500 respondents. The result was not surprising. The majority, 77% of the external respondents, stated that BP Jam Sostek should implement Sharia principles in its program. Secondly, in Indonesia's Sharia Economy Master Plan 2019-2024, it is mandated to BP Jam Sostek conduct the extension of Sharia-based employment social security services, that the future BPJS Tenagakerjaan can play a role in increasing the business scale of the Sharia finance industry. Next slide, please. Throughout the development of the Sharia services, we are not alone. We are supported by Dewan Syariah Nasional, Majelis Ulama Indonesia. The ASN MUI has appointed 4 members as representative in conducting Sharia compliances to our Sharia services, which are Professor Fatur Rahman Jamil, Dr. Khalis Nafis, Insur Habis Aryadin, Bapak Muhammad Bagus Teguh Perwira. The representative of the ASN MUI is currently preparing a Sharia service opinion for us. So, what next? Once we receive the opinion that our Sharia service are comply with Sharia principles, we are going to do a piloting project, of course, in Aceh province. Because as I mentioned before, there are regulations that force every financial institution operated in Aceh must implement Sharia. However, we have no choice but to comply with the law. The deadline is 2022. So we plan to roll out nationally in next year. This is our campaign. Next slide. Yes, this is in Aceh. Same services, same benefit, same contribution, and same branches. So that's our plan. So next slide. Next slide, please. Our total asset under management per May, 35 billion US, consists of 77% conventional assets and 23% Sharia asset. Our conventional asset is 26 billion US, while Sharia is 8.2 US. By law, we are required to provide optimal return to our members and sustain in the long run. However, there is no obligation to allocate the specific portion to our fund in Sharia instrument. In the future, the portion of Sharia asset might go larger naturally as our AUM goes larger. Looking deeper into our asset composition by instrument, the largest percentage of Sharia asset in our portfolio is Sharia equities, followed by Sukuk, and the smallest is Sharia time deposit. However, in terms of number, Sukuk is the largest with 5.6 billion US, followed by equities 2.5 billion, time deposit is 50 million USD. That's because of largest asset classes in our portfolio in bond and Sukuk. Why? Because there is a regulation that required us to allocate above 50% of our asset to government bonds. Furthermore, we don't own asset in Sharia mutual fund, direct investment, or property, since there are limited options available out there, or not able to provide an optimum result. There are two fund categories that we manage: pooling fund, which are pension program, work injury benefit and death benefit, and individual account, which are old age benefit. In terms of composition by program, the range of Sharia portion from 14% to 25%. The largest percentage of Sharia asset class is old age benefit, 25%, followed by BPJS, pension program. The smallest is work injury and death benefit. In terms of Sharia numbers, old age benefit is the largest, is 6.3 billion US, followed by pension 1.4, while the rest is under 1 billion US. There is a regulation that provides rules and guidance of our investment. It's PP 55 tahun 2015 about asset management of Social Security Fund. The regulation stated that there are certain number that we can allocate to certain instruments, regardless it's Sharia or not. These are the maximum percentage that we can allocate to various asset class. Time deposit, government bonds, treasury bond, 100%, corporate bonds, equity, mutual fund, municipal bonds, 50%, asset-backed securities, 20%, repo, 5%, and property, 10%. Next slide, please. Therefore, aligned with the rules, our preference are Sharia bonds, government or corporate, time deposit Sharia bank, Sharia equities, Sharia mutual funds, property, private equity, co-investment in sovereign wealth fund. Although we can invest in this asset class, we have our own criteria in investing in these asset classes. In general, we seek for compliance and evaluate based on the risk reward and that can provide optimum result to our members. For example, we have established a cooperation with INA to co-invest in a good opportunity. I think this is the last slide, challenge, and also as a wrap up, I think. We have several challenges. First is there are limited number of Sharia banks in Indonesia and Sharia-based bond. In fact, since we are required to put our money in state-owned banks, there is only one state-owned bank that we can put our fund in. Furthermore, considering the gradual growth of our old age program and the potential switch from conventional to Sharia service, it is not easy to find and evaluate Sharia-based bonds that we can invest in. Our governance required us to diversify in order to lowering risk. Secondly, our old age benefit claim is currently with no membership period. This makes our investment horizon shorter. Previously, 5 years. Now, anytime they can claim for old age benefit. And the allocation of equities and mutual funds is relatively limited. Thirdly, is as a public institution, of course, we put our effort to comply with regulation. There is limited regulation or investment guidance in Sharia-based investment management. Therefore, regulations are needed to support us in order to be able to allocate more in Sharia market. I think that's our wrap up in this last slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Anggoro. Very well said about our BPJS, Ketenagakerjaan, yeah. But I think when somebody is going to retire someday, one is a Muslim also. I think BPJS, Ketenagakerjaan, should provide first the Sharia product of BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. So my question, maybe you can answer it later on the Q&A session. What has been done for that? Because we know that 87.7% of Indonesian are Muslims. I think BPJS Ketenagakerjaan should have something, good for them before they are really retired. Okay, we will have the question and answer session now. I was told that Jean Decan will not be joining us because he has something, or is he still here? Maybe not. Well, I will read some of the questions. The first question is from Afrad Arifin to Mr. Farouk Raza. Please share us your knowledge and opinion regarding how Indonesia could use AOIV standards to boost its Islamic finance growth and advantages, and also become one of the Islamic finance center in the world. And also to Pak Farouk Raza, Mr. Farouk Raza, how about the future of Islamic capital market during the COVID-19 pandemic session? And can you manage also Islamic finance advisory assurances in the middle of the pandemic session? And then we'll have some question to all panel, I guess, to all panelists. Sorry. To all panelists, let me just see the, all right. This is anonymous to all panelists. How effective, efficient, and productive is the Islamic capital market in the pandemic COVID era? And some question, I think this question should be answered by Ibu Kiki. It is a question to Mr. Pahala. Now there are so many millennials who enter the stock market, and many are also interested in saving stocks or menabung saham. But we know that our stock market has very high volatility. There are lots of stocks with good fundamentals, but the price keeps dropping. So what about this? Well, let's just have those several questions first. And I would like to ask Mr. Farouk Raza to answer those questions, and Mbak Kiki and perhaps other panelists can, get along in answering those questions also. To Mr. Farouk Raza, time and place is yours to answer those questions.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Gunawan and terima kasih Pak Afrad Arifin as well. It's an interesting question, and it puts me, I think, in a very, what should I say, a little bit of challenging situation, because on one hand, I happen to be also the chairman of IOFI's Governance and Ethics Board. So my role is actually to develop, the industry standards and to help them, help in their adoption around the world. On the other hand, I have been involved in, developing the master plan for Islamic finance also in Indonesia. And in that, quest, I came to work closely with the DSN-MUI at that time, so Dewan Syariah Nasional. And it was a very enlightening experience because what we felt that Indonesia, through the DSN-MUI, arrangement and, the reforms that were done, within and after, the master plan, have been actually, very instrumental in the development and growth and, driving of, Sharia finance in Indonesia. Now, IOFI has a role of providing, the unified, industry standards for, the world. But we also understand that different countries have their own nuances, different nuances that you may have in terms of Sharia interpretation, in terms of, the dynamics that you have within the country, to do with the religious fabric of the community that you are dealing with, and, many constitutional and, legislative, frameworks as well. So in this case, I believe that while I would appreciate that, like many other countries, Indonesia adopts IOFI standards as a blanket approach. However, I'm also mindful that Indonesia, as I mentioned, has, very specific nuances of its own. And I think as far as DSN-MUI is actually leading on, working with IOFI closely, taking those IOFI standards, whether they are Sharia standards or governance and, accounting standards, etc., and to adopt them in accordance with the specific needs of Indonesian market. And then, the framework is then adopted. The framework provided by DSN-MUI, which is based on IOFI standards, is then adopted, by Indonesian industry. I think is fine. This model I think is working, and although there is a choice of adopting IOFI standards as a blanket, but I think the current arrangement is also quite beneficial. I think what I was hearing very keenly from other representatives as well. I think one of the things that probably we need to understand is that I think we have an expectation problem within Islamic finance industry, within the Sharia finance industry. We want everything to be done yesterday, whether it's consumers or regulators or market players. I think we need to have a bit more patience, and we need to give it some time, to grow organically and to mature before it actually comes, to the stage where, we can see exponential growth. So at the moment, I think we are in that phase where the growth is linear. And I think, even that the degree of that linear growth in Indonesia has actually become significantly higher. And, the proof is actually in, doubling the market share, in a short space of time of 5 years. So I think once we get, through this linear growth phase, then I think, there will be a time when everything will mature, all these efforts that are being made now, and all these, different, frameworks that are being put in place, and the drive, from the government of Indonesia, from KNUKS, from, OJK, and from all other stakeholders, and DSN-MUI, etc., will start culminating into a more exponential growth. So, I see that, mashallah, millennials, very young generation, a very strong economy, heading towards, inshallah, being in the top 5, in maybe a couple of decades or so. All these are great, but I think we also need to be mindful that, we cannot make things happen overnight. We have sown the seed, it's there, it's growing, we can see it. All we have to do now is be patient, keep doing more of the same, and of course, new things as well. I'm not saying that, we just stick to what we are doing. There is always a room for improvement, but I think, doing more of the same and giving it time and, of course, keeping it focused, I think is very, very important. And inshallah, I'm very sure that, we will be able to benefit from all, this environment that's very conducive, and it will help, inshallah, in seeing the results that we are expecting now. They will come, but maybe, in a few years' time. I think this is a natural course of, things, and we just need to be mindful of that. Another point I think was repeatedly mentioned about the pandemic. So of course, this is a very challenging situation for the whole world. But I was also very much intrigued by the charts that Pahala Mansouri he shared, and we can see that the indicators are actually returning to almost pre-pandemic time. So not 100% there. I think there is very strong signs of recovery, and the indicators are showing that we are getting close to the pre-pandemic situation. Of course, it has caused a dent in everything that we do, but I believe that we have passed the worst stage, and now inshallah it will be becoming better over time. It has also given an opportunity, I think, for everybody, individuals, businesses, and the governments actually to stop for a second, for a few months, to see how things have been done to date, and analyzing, breaking down different things, and understanding, and redirecting, and I think reprioritizing their priorities. So I think this has actually become very helpful. And in some cases, I have actually seen that many things that were becoming sort of they were slowing down the process, the development process, and many opportunities that were hidden, I think, have come to light. And I think Islamic finance, capital market is definitely one of those things that has come to light. That it's not only related to to sukuk only. It's not only sorry, it's not only for banking, but it's also integrating the whole economy around it, and giving the opportunity to the businesses to tap more into capital markets, individual investors and institutional investors to focus more on Sharia capital markets. So I think it's just a matter of time, and bringing it together. So with little bit of patience, inshallah, and with persistence, I think inshallah we will be out of this soon, and it will be much better afterwards. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Farouk Raza. Next question that I have mentioned, I would like Ibu Kiki to respond to that, and I will add some more okay.
The index, right?
Yes, about the index, and some more about how long will it take to process a 100 billion IDR sukuk mudharabah. Is this the right time to issue sukuk with that amount? Are there any challenges that should be anticipated? Please, Ibu Kiki.
Okay, I'll try to answer. Probably not that specific, yeah, but I'll answer first. How is the performance of Jakarta Islamic Index or Islamic stocks in this pandemic area? This is a bit different, Mas Gunawan. Usually, when the crisis came, the Islamic Index performed well or better than the conventional, because we all know that in the conventional index, there are banks, right? That usually really impacted by financial crisis and so on and so on. But this pandemic time is different. We can see here that for Jakarta Composite Index, year to date, the growth is plus 0.01. But for Index Saham Syariah Indonesia is still minus 2.3. For Jakarta Islamic Index, it's even low, big. The minus is around minus 13%. It's comparable to the decline in the LQ45 index, which is minus 11%. This can be explained like this, Mas Iwan, because in Jakarta Islamic Index that usually perform better in time of crisis, because it's really we can say that when we make index, yeah, we get it from universe like universe of stocks, yeah. That then we screen it again based on liquidity and other Sharia compliance requirement. But then we got the best 30. So the trend now is a bit different. Now the stock that is growing very well is the second second grade of stocks. So it's not included in the Jakarta Islamic Index. And also, we can see that in the Indonesia Jakarta Composite Index, the moving the stock that make index harga saham gabungan or the Jakarta Composite Index perform well is like, for example, Arto and MTech stocks. They are not included in JE, of course, because they're banks, right? So supported by technology and Goto, yeah, that will we all know there. So that's the difference, Mas Iwan. So the performance of Islamic index in this pandemic is not very good compared to the conventional, which is not like the usual. Yeah, usual in the crisis time. Usually, Islamic index perform better than a conventional index. That's it, Mas Iwan.
All right. Oh, thank you very much for the great explanations. We have another question to Mbak Kiki and to Mr. Jean, who already left, I guess. So I would try to give these questions to Mbak Kiki and to also Pak Anggoro and Pak Arsyad. The question to Mr. Jean: how are the demands of ESG or green sukuk globally, especially for green corporate sukuk? Is there any chances for the private companies from Indonesia to issue the sukuk in global market, especially the green sukuk, because Indonesia is the champion in green sovereign sukuk? And the next question, this is particularly to Mbak Kiki. How to invite more institutional and individual investors to take part in Islamic capital market in Indonesia, since the rationale of the investors compared to the population in Indonesia is still relatively small to date. It is small, but the Indonesian Muslims are a great number in Indonesia. Why it is still small? Perhaps Pak Arsyad and Pak Anggoro would like to share also their views in answering these two questions. Bu Kiki, take time for you first. Thank you very much.
Still mute. Okay. Nggak gantian dulu ya. Oh, it's okay. Okay, Mas Iwan, thank you for the question. Actually, it's a problem that we already discussed since a long time ago. Yeah, when how to develop more to increase the number of Sharia investors. I think like this. Yeah, maybe I can go back a little bit further. Yeah. Before, when we talk about investment in capital market, when we talk about conventional capital market investment, people were not interested actually. Yeah. So we had to tap the issue that they were concerned about. First is they were asking whether investing in capital market is Sharia or not. That's the first step. Mas Iwan, you know that issue very well, right? So at the time, we went to the National Council to talk about this. So they gave us Fatwa number 80 that the mechanism in Indonesia capital market already Sharia compliance because it's like a continuous auction or ba'i al-musawamah. It's continuous auction is actually done when our Nabi Muhammad did trade, right? And then already got the fatwa, and then it really boosts the confidence of people in Indonesia to invest in Indonesia capital market. So actually, why the number is still low Sharia investor itself? Because in Indonesia capital market we divide into two. The first is regular investor. The second is Sharia investor. What is Sharia investor? Sharia investor is those who are have Sharia account in securities house that has Sharia online trading system. So it's really the number is really smaller again. But I have a strong belief that actually the growth of the number of investors in Indonesia, which is now 5.5 million, is actually people who actually, they already believe that investing in capital market, although they didn't use like stock Sharia online trading system, but as long as they buy Sharia stocks and they don't do like gambling and those that are prohibited in the Fatwa number 80, they actually already comply with their belief that investing in capital markets is already Sharia. That's I have a strong belief on that. So actually, Mas Iwan, the number of Sharia investors is actually bigger than the number that is captured because it's really secluded, yeah, from the SOTS itself. That's the first. And the second, of course, I believe that the education and socialization and campaign about investing in a Sharia way, we have to do it more and more. It has to be done by all regulators and market players, just like securities house and others. So I think it has to be done together, Mas Iwan, and also the variety of the product. So I remember your first question to me that I haven't answered. How to develop corporate sukuk, for example. So it has to be a supply and demand. As I mentioned before, like Pak Anggoro, who has a like huge amount of fund. If Pak Anggoro want to go more on the sukuk, corporate sukuk, for example, then the issuers tend to understand that there is a big demand on that, so they're willing to issue a corporate sukuk, because issuing sukuk is not as simple as conventional, right? Because people already know the conventional before the sukuk one, so there are extra effort. But if it's worth it, then I believe that the number will be increasing. That's Mas Iwan.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I would like to ask Pak Arsyad, but unfortunately he already left the panel. No problem. I'll pass on the questions to Pak Anggoro then. Pak Anggoro Eko Cahyo. What about BPJS Ketenagakerjaan drive to invest in some private companies of Indonesia issuing green corporate sukuk? Is the demand will be much larger from BPJS Ketenagakerjaan? And I would like to also ask you about should BPJS Ketenagakerjaan, regarding the Indonesia is the Muslim majority country, should BPJS Ketenagakerjaan provide first the Sharia instrument for those potential retirees to be provided by the Sharia schemes from BPJS Ketenagakerjaan or not? So those two questions, please answer it right away, Pak Anggoro. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Underline the Bu Kiki answers that we are from the buyer side. So as long as the green sukuk is worth it, so the demand is big, because, and I try to connect with the question number 2 from Pak Gunawan, because now we are in the still early phase in terms of developing Sharia services. Hopefully our piloting in this year in Aceh is doing well, so we can roll out next year, and we aim to scale our Sharia services nationally in the near future, and this will require us to allocate more fund to Sharia instruments. That's the challenge. In the future, we hope we can contribute more in the capital market by investing more in Sharia asset. But we need support from all stakeholders to grow the Islamic capital market ecosystem, Pak Gunawan. In a way, providing investment regulation for social security and variety instruments that are competitive with conventional instruments. The challenge is the limitation of the market. The AUM is growing fast, and we hope after we implement in Aceh, and we can nationally to other area, so that we can provide the Muslim majority in Indonesia with Sharia product. one of the product, old age benefit, is from the program side is already comply with Sharia because individual product. So and the fact is 70% of our fund is from old age benefit. So it means 70% of our fund is already Sharia principle. So of course we have to wait until the SNMUI give opinion, but from our discussion is already comply. But the challenge is we have to allocate the fund with the Sharia market. That's a challenge. In terms of programs, I think we already close to the principles, but the challenge in market that we cannot do by ourselves. We have to have support from stakeholders to growing the capital market. That's my answer for the two questions, Pak Gunawan.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Pak Anggoro Eko Cahyo, President Director of BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. Well, vaguely, I have heard some azan near my place. So I would like to ask the panelists to give some closing remarks, perhaps, from Mr. Farouk Raza. Please give some closing remarks regarding the number of Sharia economic finance doers in UK, and the financial instruments are not that really big, but why UK can be the center and hub of Islamic capital market. And then to Mbak Kiki, well, I must remind you again, even though Indonesia is still #1 in sovereign sukuk issuer, but still in corporate sukuk wise, we need to, have some booster, just like the vaccine, because over the years we don't really do significant enough to make greater corporate sukuk wise in dealing, in getting the bigger market share in this country, or it is in the world. And then to Pak Anggoro, what do you think about giving more good providing the retiree or the potential retiree, Muslim potential retirees, the Sharia schemes or Sharia instruments from BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. So I will give the time and place first to Pak Farouk Raza to make your closing remarks. Please, Pak Farouk.
Yeah, terima kasih, Pak Gunawan. Okay, this is always a good question actually, and it comes very frequently to me, that how UK has consolidated its leadership position in Sharia finance while being non-Muslim and a Western country. So as I mentioned earlier, this is all about having a vision. So I think we are very lucky in a way that the British government, and regardless of whoever has had in the been in the government, so different parties have had governments over the last 2-3 decades since Islamic finance became known and became stronger, established itself as a mainstream mode of finance in the country. All these different governments of different backgrounds, different political views, have actually followed a single line of action, and this is very clearly defined strategy by the government, that Islamic finance or Sharia finance is an alternative mode of finance. It has its own merits, and it needs to be offered, provided to the British public regardless of their faith, and also it should be facilitated for international business as well. Now, having this very clear vision that is commonly and jointly shared by all stakeholders, whether it's the ministries, or whether it's the Her Majesty's Treasury, or whether it's the regulator, the Bank of England, and so on and so forth. So all stakeholders have actually worked in line with this strategy that has been, very strictly followed by the government, and then adherence to this, single policy throughout, different, governments has actually been extremely instrumental. And to the point that, yes, it may be seen that, the population of the Muslim community in the UK is still small. We are almost 4% of, the national population. Yet, this is a community that is, economically quite active, and there's a lot of entrepreneurship as well, and so on and so forth, businesses, etc. So all this has actually become integrated, and we are living in a time when Islamic finance is accepted as a mainstream mode of finance. So you can walk into, there are a couple of major British banks. You can actually just walk into any of their branch out of their thousands of branch network, and you can open an Islamic account with them, or you can with some you maybe apply to. You may be able to apply for a home finance, and so on and so forth, and corporate financing as well. So a lot of opportunities for the retail market, a lot of opportunities for the corporate market and the financial markets as well. So this is all due to this single vision and the collaboration between different stakeholders. Now, I will relate this to also to Indonesia, because Indonesia has been always the largest Muslim population, has been always very, very keen on making Sharia finance as one of the major pillars of the economy. But since the inception of KNOKS, and having this common vision now through the master plan, and then all the stakeholders working together, we have seen the changes, and it has actually become very, very helpful, and we are really confident now, inshallah, that it will make Indonesia the center of Islamic finance, because in the world, because you have the largest Muslim population, you also have probably one of the most I think strongest the strongest economies in the Islamic world, and heading towards being inshallah in the top 5. So all the ingredients that are required are there. I think one thing that is missing probably is the same again that is almost everywhere in the world, and that is awareness. And that is why I keep listening to this question coming frequently, that why not enough corporate sukuk issuances in Indonesia, and same is the case in other countries as well, with the exception of Malaysia, where the corporate market is very, very strong. I think we see in many countries the same problem, and it's all down to awareness. So I think the more people become aware, the more the corporates are educated, and the regulator provides them with the facilitation, with the assistance in understanding, the better it will become, inshallah, over time. So these are my closing remarks, and I would like to thank again once KNOKS, and also the facilitators and the Pak Gunawan to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alhamdulillah, Mr. Farouk Raza. Thank you for the advice to Indonesia. Next, I would like to give the time and place to Pak Anggoro. Pak Anggoro, please have your closing remarks.
Okay. Yeah, there are demand for our customers, and responding from their demand, we are currently developing Sharia services. Hopefully, it can be rolled out in 2022. We also hope to allocate more in Sharia market. We hope by 2021 onwards, our Sharia market has grown. So we are exactly ready to contribute more the Sharia capital market. I think that's our closing remark. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We are looking forward to your future implementation for us, the majority of Muslims, of course. Thank you very much, Pak Anggoro. Next, last but not least, Ibu Kiki, please have your closing remarks.
Pak Gunawan, actually, I don't have to give my closing remarks because Pak Anggoro already have a commitment, mentioned his commitment. I think everything is already done, Pak Gunawan, Pak Venture. I think the seminar went very well. because that's the one of the main issue, Pak Gunawan, yeah. Because for example, other than BPJSTK, like BPKH, Bank Syariah Indonesia, yeah, they're already big now, so they have actually the power to boost the development of sukuk, corporate sukuk. This, like we know that BSE had invested in infrastructure project, yeah, through corporate sukuk as well, one of the biggest as well. I think this can support the development of corporate sukuk in Indonesia. Because as I mentioned before, there are the lack in understanding and knowledge and understanding. But if it push or boost by like big demand by huge investor like Pak Anggoro, I think they're willing to learn more and study more and spend some more time to learn about corporate sukuk. And that's for the product itself and the market itself, yeah. So the supply and demand must be support. And other is for SDM, yeah, human resource that understand about the how understand detail about how to issue corporate sukuk, and also from the issuer side, yeah, they have to have the more understanding about the product and other things. So I think as I mentioned before, but I'm very glad that Pak Anggoro already said something like that. So I think that concludes my view on this, Mas Gunawan. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe we should discuss this more and more focus. I mean, in your show, yeah, economic challenges. All right. Okay. Thank you very much to all panelists, Mr. Farouk Raza, Mr. Arsyad Rashid, Mr. Jean Degant, Ibu Frederica Widyasari, and Pak Anggoro Eko Cahyo. I, Gunawan Yasni, would like to say on your behalf, Nafu minkum, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to you, Mbak Ambar, as MC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, Bapak Gunawan Yasni, for leading a very fruitful discussion this afternoon. And thank you very much to all of our speakers in this afternoon session. Hopefully, this conference will enlighten us, will enhance the public understanding about Islamic capital market products in Indonesia. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would like to ask all the participants, please do take a moment to fill out survey form by accessing the link provided on Zoom chat, and please provide us with feedback of our conference to improve our performance in the next event. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of today's event, the International Conference, The Future of Islamic Capital Market, Opportunities, Challenges, and Way Forward. I am thankful to all distinguished speakers, moderators, guests, and participants for your attendance, and it has been our pleasure to host this event. I wish you all a pleasant day, stay safe and stay healthy. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Pak Venture. Terima kasih Pak. Terima kasih.